Hello, this is Father Bill Watson, and this is a question for our YouTube channel, Ask Me, Ask Father Bill. And we're looking at the issue of discernment, and today we're going to look at it in terms of conscience. Moral decisions are often the subject of one's personal discernment, usually. And in discerning them, the Church has always held individual conscience to be inviolable. Basically, your conscience is kind of the end of the line with regards to right and wrong. The Catechism of the Catholic Church says man has the right to act in conscience and in freedom so as personally to make moral decisions. He must not be forced to act contrary to his conscience, nor must he be prevented from acting according to his conscience, especially in religious matters. Cardinal Newman went so far as to call one's personal conscience the aboriginal vicar of Christ. That's pretty powerful. But the Church has always also taught that the conscience must be informed or formed. Again, the Catechism of the Catholic Church says, conscience must be informed and moral judgment enlightened. A well-formed conscience is upright and truthful. It formulates judgments according to reason and conformity with the good willed by the wisdom of the Creator. The education of conscience is indispensable for human beings who are subjected to negative influences and tempted by sin and prefer their own judgment than to reject authoritative teachings. But we live in an age where two big challenges to conscience and discernment upend the process. On the one hand, most individuals rely on their lived experience as their conscience. But are the two the same? Many years in spiritual direction have informed me that nearly everyone has a one-dimensional view of their so-called lived experience. If one takes their faith seriously, often a deeper reflection or a more careful formation of one's conscience, new data about that lived experience can move one to a different discernment and conclusion. The other big challenge is that many people simply don't care what the Church says, no matter the level and consistency of its authoritative teachings. I can't tell you how often I encounter these two profound challenges in my own work, in my own spiritual direction. Jesus would oftentimes use a story to illustrate a situation. So I would like to offer a story from my own work that addresses both of these challenges. Some years ago, I knew a college senior who wanted to make an Ignatian retreat, and get this, to discern whether he should accept the offer of a first-year co-ed who had asked him to be her first sexual partner. This was an era when most parents, even Catholic college student parents, fully expected their son or daughter to engage in premarital sex. From my polling at the time, the parents would not offer a carte blanche to premarital sex, as they usually offered the advice that if they did engage in premarital sex, just make sure you love the person and that they love you. So that was kind of the moral code. What I found unique in this young man's request was that he really did not care what I thought of his engaging in premarital sex, and he seemed to have no embarrassment or concern about what I thought or what the Church taught on the matter. But at least he was taking the discernment seriously, and by his willingness to make a 5-day silent retreat. So I knew on the retreat that I could not say, Jesus says, the Church teaches, Father Bill recommends. None of these set responses would have had any impact on him. So we were left with the fact that he was at least open to discern. Then the question was, how might the Holy Spirit work in that openness? Because a serious 5-day Ignatian retreat is an effective school of discernment that can help one get beyond a one-dimensional view of one's lived experience. And it was amazing how the Holy Spirit worked. He came for a conference toward the end of the retreat and wanted to tell me an experience he had while drinking a cup of coffee and looking out the window of his room. He said he remembered the time as a high school sophomore, 6 years previous, when he lost his virginity. Up to this point, he had said that it was just a piece of data. He described it as a memory that had no emotional content. And he always looked back on the experience in a very neutral way. Saw my first Red Sox game, went to the Jersey Shore for vacation, and I lost my virginity. End of story. But he had a different experience on this retreat as he was reflecting on the choice he came to discern while looking out that window. He said, I got in touch with how I actually felt at that time. And up to this retreat, he had never felt it before. He said, the experience I had when I lost my virginity was one of profound grief and sadness that I had lost something incredibly precious that I could never get back. What he described actually was probably the real feelings he had at the loss of innocence. It was not a high five in the locker room experience, but one of profound grief and sadness. You can see maybe why he edited that out as a sophomore in high school. So this surfaced memory for which he had never had any emotional gauges let him know that his lived experience, his true lived experience of the loss of his own virginity, the very thing he was offered to facilitate with the co-ed, was one of profound sadness and grief. He had come on the retreat to offer God this question and choice and hope to get a response. And boy, God came through in an extraordinary way. At the end of the retreat, he told me, Father Bill, I don't think that young lady knows what she's giving up, and I'm not going to be the one to take it from her. What a Holy Spirit moment. So we should have hope in this day and age when people want to use their lived experience as the arbiter of conscience and truth, and even when they totally disregard church teaching and practice. Because we do know, and Newman was right, to call conscience the aboriginal vicar of Christ. Our challenge then is to facilitate experiences where the people we work with will be willing to take seriously the moral life and to carefully take the time needed to discern choices in light of that divine law that resides in the depths of our hearts. Again, the Catechism of the Catholic Church. Man is sometimes confronted by situations that can make moral judgments less assured and decisions difficult. We've all been there. But he must always seriously seek what is right and good and discern the will of God expressed in divine law. Now you better understand the complexity of lived experience and the fact that truth can be discerned even in light of complexity when you get underneath that one-dimensional aspect of lived experience. Conscience and discernment. And I hope this helps.